Hey everyone, sorry about that. Sorry for the delays. Something didn't connect right from either my end or something like that. But we're here to get started. So my name is Matt Forrest. This is another edition in our series Spatial Spotlights that we will be going through how to develop applications with CARTO. We'll talk a little bit about some of the choices you have to build spatial applications, specifically web apps, and then how to actually build an application. We'll walk through that with our library called CARTO for React, which is a packaged solution that includes a lot of different things. We'll only scrape the surface today, given the limited amount of time that we have. But let's go ahead and get started. I'll kind of walk you through some of the different options that you have to develop with, and we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and present over here, and I'll open up this presentation. So this is a little intro on some of the things you can do with developing with CARTO. Everything in all of our visualization libraries are built off of deck.gl. This is an open source library that provides very efficient, visualizations. You can do different things from 3D and different layers, support for spatial indexes, and everything like that. So everything that we built off of is built off of deck.gl. It's an incredible library. If you're familiar with Kepler.gl, that's the same visualization engine that Kepler uses as well. Now, there are some different tools you can actually use to do rapid prototyping. So if you create a map in Builder, you can style it and actually build everything out and then publish that, and that can integrate into some of the different maps if you're doing a pure JavaScript sort of integration. So there's some easy ways to do that. You add your layers, styles, maps, and then you take that over, and then you're, can hit the ground running there. With that said, the CARTO for Deck, we have different integrations across all the major libraries. If you want to use that with, React or Angular or Vue or different, kind of layers like with Mapbox.gl and things like that, all of those pieces kind of integrate. So it's very easy to take that layer and drop that into an existing application as well, should you want to do that. But we're starting from scratch, and we're going to actually use CARTO for React. Now, this is a package system. I've been using React for a long time. And basically, this allows you to get a lot of the scaffolding of what your application out of the way, from things like authentication. You have sort of a complete sort of user interface set up. It's fairly easy to pull all these pieces together and actually build something quite quickly. So that's the best way to kind of get started from that side. From the architecture, like I said, these are all sort of open libraries that we use here. So there's React Redux, we have React Router, Material UI for all the user interfaces. There's different things from Turf, Deck.gl, eCharts, and HiGen to actually do code generation. So it's all built off of open pieces. It's basically like, if you get everything built together already, it's ready to go and for you to start using. So instead of buying all the ingredients and making the pizza yourself, you kind of have a pre-built pizza. You just have to bake it. I don't know if that metaphor sticks with everybody, but we'll go from there. This is what the layout looks like. So this is the base layout. You have different things that you can add in, like your search bars, authentication, navigation bar widgets, legend, so on and so forth. So all those pieces are ready for you to use. And then, like I said, there's this authentication with tokens that you can use. You just have to establish a new token in your CARTO account, and then it's ready to go. You can handle all the logins and authentication against your CARTO account should you want it to be behind a login. If you don't, you can make a public application as well. So with that, we're going to get started. If you do want to follow along, you can go to docs.carto.com. You're going to scroll down here to the CARTO for React. That should be under the CARTO for Developers section. And we'll go ahead and kind of follow the tutorials here. So I'm going to live code this. I have the app over here if I need to fall back on something. So I can always get back and reference that. But let's go ahead and get started. You're going to run this command. If you don't have yarn or npm installed, you will need to install those libraries. So just be aware if you need to install those here. What we're going to do, I'm just going to open up VS Code here, and I'll zoom in so everyone can see a little bit better. So what we're going to do is yarn create, let's just word wrap this, create React app. I'm going to give it a specific name here. The data we're going to be using is actually college football player data. I found this data and scraped a website a couple of years back. They looked at all of the college recruits hometowns, positions, and the teams that they played for, and things like that. So there's, I think like 135,000 players in this database. It's not, the last few years weren't current because I haven't rescraped that website, but one of those things on my bucket list. And if you're in the U.S., college football is of course starting, so this is always an interesting sport for me. So we're just going to call this our CFB. Oops, wants to type today. CFB app, and if I can type, that'd be great. I'll go ahead and run this. Let me just get into my documents folder. And let's go ahead and create this. So this will basically pull and create the package that we need. It's fetching everything and pulling it down. And it's going to put it into this folder called CFB app, which is what I named my application. Once that's started, we'll kind of walk through some of the folder structures. I have my client ID. If you haven't done this before in your CARTO workspace, you can go to this section, developers here. We'll open that up. And then all you have to do here is just create a new token. You just have to give it a name, a description, and the URL, which should basically follow the documentation, which is this 127.0.0.1 or your local host in 3000. So once that's ready, we can go ahead and open up the docs. So it should be ready here in a few seconds. What we're going to do then is go into this first file called initial state slice. This is just getting the API key connected into the application so it can read our data and do everything we want to do there. So that's the last bit that we need to do to get everything connected. So assuming this time you do that, while we're get everything set up, let's take a look at the data here. So this is the data set. It's geocoded to the city or the hometown of this specific player. So you can see there's data all over the US, but also data across the world and Europe, Africa, Australia, Asia, South America. So there are college players coming in from all over the world, which I think is another interesting piece. Each row contains information about the player itself. We have the number that they wore, their name, the position that they played, what year they were. So the one player could be in the database multiple times, depending on that. Height, weight, hometown, the last school that they attended, what year this was in the data set. And then we have a city, state, country, the school they played for, and then their conference. So the conferences, of course, have shifted a little bit since that, even in recent weeks. But this is, sort of as of the last time that was done. So once this, let's go ahead and open a folder here. I'm going to go into documents. I'm going to go into apps. Oh, cancel. There we go. All right, so we're done. Everything is set up here. We go to documents, apps, and CFB app. So let's open this up. Why is that not opening? Of course. Okay, so what we can do, just zoom out a little bit. First, we're going to go into the source folder here. We're going to go into store, and we have this initial state slice. So what I'll do is I'll copy my key that I have built already. That'll go where the client ID is listed. So if you see this here, we have the client ID, and we can go ahead and add that in. Once that's done, I'll open up a terminal window here. And what we can do is hit yarn start, and that will start our application. We should get it to pop up over here. It's not running secure yet, so if we just go to HTTP, we can go ahead and that should be here in a second. Let's see. There we go. Advanced. Go ahead. This one gave me trouble last time too, so let's try it again. This might take a little bit to get the server set up. While that is going on, we can go ahead and start to add in some layers here. So let's do that while this gets going. So once we want to add in some layers, we can create what's known as a view. So we can use this code generation here, which basically builds the layering system for us. So we're going to create a view. That's just going to be a component. Oh, that's not what I wanted. We're going to create the view, which is a page in the application. We'll go ahead and do that. We'll call this players, route path, players, and then do you want to link in the main menu? Yes, so that's set up that. The next bit we want to do is get the source. So we'll go ahead and add a new source, which is our source data. Let's call this CFB players. We'll give it a connection name. In this case, that's the connection that you can find in CARTO. That would be in the Data Explorer, and you can see what your connection name is. In this case, it's this one here, Matt Marketing. So we'll go ahead and get that here, and we're going to write a query. So we're going to do select star from Matt dot that table name CFB all. And that has added that. Then the last bit is just adding in our layer. So we're going to create a new layer here, copy that, and then create our layer. So we'll give it a name, CFB players. We'll give it, tie that to the source that we just created. We'll tie it to the view, and we want to add it to that players view. And that's done. So let's try this again. Yarn start, get this up and running. And I think this time we'll have a little bit of a better luck. Let's see what we do. Always fun waiting around for it to load up. Let's see. Try the HTTP path, see if that gives us anything better. Here we go. Okay. All right, so we have to navigate over to this page here, and as you can see, we should get some data loading up, and here it is. We have our data on a map just with those few steps, and you can kind of see everything with the different information about the players here. So in the next steps, what we want to do is actually add some interactivity to the map before we style it. So let's go ahead over here. We can take a look at some of the widget options. So if you go down to examples, or sorry, library reference, sorry, guides, and then widgets, you can see some of the widgets we have available. So we have feature, selection, formula, geocoder, histogram, pie, scatter plot, chart, and table, and you can see all of the different examples here. So what I'm going to do is basically go ahead and copy those over from the code that I already wrote to save a little bit of time. And I'll just grab this here and go over. That is going to be in components, views, and then players, which is what I created there. So let's open this and zoom it out a little bit so we can see. The first thing I have to do is import the layer types that I want. So we're going to import the category widget, which I can do here. And then we'll also grab the pie widget, which is here. And what I want to do is basically add 3 widgets. We'll kind of skip ahead and copy this code, but you can kind of see how to add those in the documentation. We'll get rid of this hello world. What I'm going to do is add the style padding up here just so we have a little bit of a buffer space. And then we have our different widgets here. So we have our category widget, which has the school, which will be filtered by the school name. We have an aggregation type. So basically you have an ID, a title, a data source, which is our source ID that we created earlier, the column you want to operate on, which in this case is school, aggregation types, counts. And then we have some other ones here. So this will be position, players by position, or the position they played. And then a pie widget that will be for the conference that they play in. So let's go ahead and clean that up. Go ahead and hit run. Now that we added all those widgets in, we should compile that and get a refresh over here if I did everything correctly. Aggregation types, I didn't import that library. So let's do that. Fix that error. Now, why is the copy not working? Now my keyboard's breaking. This is okay. So let's do. There we go. Aggregation types. Okay, we'll save that. And we should have this over here. All right, and now we can interact with our data. So we still haven't styled the map. We haven't done anything too fancy here yet. Just to point out, there are some other cool widgets that I really like. you can actually add in a geocoder to do searching by address or a feature selection. So you can actually draw an area around that. We have formula widgets, histograms, and then you can actually dynamically create a legend. We're not going to get to those today, but we'll just do some basic interactivities that we can see on the map. And once everything hooks up here, we should be able to see this start to populate. Let's give it a refresh and see if that kicks it into motion. All right, well, let's let that load and we'll jump into the styling components. So the last bit, of course, just for the basics today, is we're going to style our map here. So to do so, we're going to want to jump into the layer. So that is the source of the data, and then we actually want to open up the layer here. So this is where you can actually style this. This is based off of the deck.gl sort of styling methodology. And what we're going to do here is just simply import a library that helps us do this really easily. So we're going to pull in what's called CARTO categories from the CARTO deck.gl category. And these have some of the colors that you would see in Builder that we can use to style the map and things like that. So what we want to do is basically change this, which is the fill color, which is this red color we have here. First of all, what I'll do is I'll just change the style around the around the points here. Let's make the points a little bit bigger by changing that to 3. And then here's the code that we'll use to get our fill color. So let's replace this with this code here. And what I've done is I've used the color categories function. I picked an attribute, or in this case, a column that I want to use. That's going to be the conference attribute or the name. This is the domain that I want to use. So these are all the possible values that would possibly pop into that. And then we have the color palette of bold, so we can use that color palette. So let's go ahead and run this again. Get everything to refresh. And now we've updated so we can see these styles in the map. We can still see the players. I don't know why the widgets don't want to load though. That's interesting. Let's see what's going on there. Let me just debug, of course. And let me just see if I can grab everything from here. All right here. And let's see if that shows up anywhere else. All right, give it a shot now. Okay, let's see here. I had the wrong ID. Right, let's go over here. I think this is where I messed that up. All right, let's jump back and see. Of course, live debugging, this is always a possibility, but in worst case, I'll spin up the existing app. All right, let's bail on this. Always fun to switch that up, but of course, the backup plan we can always bring into start. So that's going to refresh from the original code I wrote. Sorry about that. I don't know why that wasn't working for me. Let's go ahead and let this refresh. This will sort of do the build in the background, and then we should be able to see the map here. Just as we go through all of this, there's, like I said, there's many different things that you can use. You can change the base map. You can update the look and feel or the style of the map if you want to change the fonts or the colors. There's also query parameters, so you can kind of parameterize this. If you want to check out some different sample applications, I also recommend checking those out. So there's a few different here that you can kind of play around with. This is one of them that has some different pieces. So this has the sort of the filtering methods that you want to see here. If you want to filter by the masks or by area, there's some different widgets that you can use here for histograms and tables, and this will also have this is a scatter plot widget as well. So if you want to just be able to sort of grab some of these methods, you can kind of see how that works. And then if everything worked over here, nope, that did not work. Let's see what happened here. If I can regroup this. Your selection widget. Let's see what that is. I am sorry, this one totally broke on me. That is a bummer. Let me see what's going on here. Give it one more shot. Okay, let's try this. Hey, all right, sorry about that. I don't know what happened here. That's very strange. Let me see here what that's. I think I might know what it is. Okay, one last try. I took the risk. I gambled on the live programming, and okay, here we go. Let's see what we get. So this was the final product that we wanted. Finally, now you can filter and look at the different schools and things like that. If you want to look at just the players that played a specific position, you can filter out by conference. If you want to see where the players drawing from the Big Ten are, which is sort of this Midwestern conference that you see here. If you want to look at SEC, you sort of see this geographic distribution. But certainly there are some teams that recruit from all over. Most notably, some of the big programs like Alabama, you can see here. We can apply that, and then you can see sort of their geographic base. Of course, still strong in their home state down here, but they're certainly drawing from many different areas around the country, sort of as you can see from there. Other ones are super local. So if we looked at let's take a look at Wisconsin, or maybe Georgia is another big program here that we can take a look at. Certainly drawing from their home state, but also drawing from these other areas. One of the most, I think, geographically distributed ones is actually BYU. So if you want to take a look at that and apply it here, they draw from all over the country. This is a college that's in Utah, so you can sort of see the recruiting base here, but they actually have people from all over the country, as you can see, and Hawaii and internationally. So they draw from pretty much everywhere that they can. And then there's the ones that just kind of do sort of really local recruiting. Wisconsin, as you can see here, pretty much centered within the state itself. So this is kind of what you can do and get up and running pretty quickly with CARTO for React, apart from the little bumps along the way, which always tend to happen with some of the live coding. We get a basic spatial application out of this. So if, this took us about 20 minutes to get a basic POC built here. But also, like I said, you can also check out some of the other tools that we have, for working with direct development in, things like DeckGL. There's a full documentation here to get started. You can create tile sets. You can use spatial indexes in H3. So there's quite a bit that you can do here. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or want to start getting to use this yourself, check out docs.carto.com, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or anyone else at CARTO as well. So that's it for today. Hope you all enjoyed that, and have the good rest of your week.